Okay, everyone. So the meeting's being recorded, in case you're not aware of that. Thanks so much for joining. Welcome to the March Brooklyn Solid Waste Advisory Board General Membership Meeting. I am Rhonda. I am the chair of the Brooklyn SWAB. And Michael, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Michael. I am the Sergeant at Arms of the Brooklyn SWAB.
Matt?
I'm Matt Sabella, chair of the Manhattan SWAB.
If everybody hear Matt, all right?
Yeah, you can hear.
Okay. Just let us know if you can't hear us because we have.
We can hear you. Now I don't know that we can hear you. Maybe when you pulled the cord, something got disconnected.
Yeah, it's bright.
Is it okay? Everybody can hear us?
Yep, you're back.
Yay! Okay, so Lacey, do you want to introduce yourself
I'm
again?
Lacey Calver. I'm the legislative director for Brooklyn Borough President Reynoso. And this way, I'm Beth Sluckin. I'm vice chair of the Brooklyn SWAB.
And that's it. So just in case you've just arrived, go ahead and put your name and what brings you here in the chat. We're happy to have everyone. And we are very happy to have our speaker this month. We have Sarah. Let me just introduce you. Yes. So Sarah McCollum Williams is the executive director of Green Gorillas. We started looking for tool libraries, and we got Sarah and Green Gorillas, who do so much more that and so much more than that. And I'm really excited to hear about Sarah's work this evening. You can read about her full, very impressive bio in our agenda for this month. But without further ado, I guess we should just get started and hear from Sarah. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Great. Thank you, Rhonda. And thank you, everyone, for the invitation to join with you tonight. I'm going to share my screen and share a little bit of an overall view of kind of what Green Gorillas does, what our mission is, and then also really focus on our tool library, how the tool library came about, what's in our tool library, how it runs, how it operates, and all of those sort of things. So I'll kind of start with the bigger picture and then narrow in on the specifics around our tool library. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And go into the slideshow. So Green Gorillas is a nonprofit organization. We have a 50-year history in the city. We were founded in 1973, and we exist to support, preserve, protect, support community gardens across the city. And our team has been growing a bit over the last few years. The photo is from our summer youth tillers internship program. So those were our summer youth who are with us there. But our full team right now is myself, and then 5 of my colleagues, Aishima, Evika, Helen, Rissa, and Derek. So if you hear anything from Green Gorillas, you may hear from any one of us. And I'll talk a little bit more specifically about Derek's work. Derek was in our youth empowerment pipeline program for 4 years. He came into our program when he was 17, and now he has come on as a part-time member of staff, and he manages and, for the most part, leads our tool library efforts. So we're really excited to have Derek on board with us. Derek is not our only team member who has a long history with Green Gorillas. My colleague Aishima, who is our director of programs, actually got started with Green Gorillas when she was a teenager in our summer youth program many years ago. Not that many years ago. Ashima is still quite young, but not as young as Derek for sure. Ashima uh, was with us when she was in high school. She then went on to university studies and has recently finished her master's degree in public administration. Worked for a while as the program director at East New York Farms and is now with us. It's come full circle back to Green Gorillas. So we're really proud to have team members that have a long history with the organization. Um, let's see. So I shared a little bit about our, that we've been around for quite a long time, and we use really a mix of education, organizing, advocacy, and hands-on support to help people cultivate community gardens, sustain grassroots groups, grow food, engage youth, and address issues that are critical to food justice and urban agriculture. Um, and our work more or less has three pillars: youth empowerment, as I've talked about a little bit, that bears fruit for us and for our communities in so many ways. And then also community garden resources, community garden support, which takes many different forms, and then also advocacy work. I'll talk really briefly about some of those. So, in terms of the community garden support, our primary programs around that are Harvest for Neighborhoods, where we're really working on supporting food growing community gardens in Harlem, throughout central Brooklyn, and then also in the South Bronx. And then our seed library and our tool lending library. And these are newer resources. We opened both of these on Earth Day last year in 2024. So we have recently finished, or not quite finished, but our first full year of operating both of those libraries. So will definitely share more about why we started the libraries, how they got started. And those libraries are open to all community gardeners across New York City. So anyone who is over 18 and is a registered member of a community garden is welcome to use those resources. And then our youth programming and our Council of Gardeners programming. And I'll share a little more about that on the next screen. So we have two programs for youth. One is our youth empowerment pipeline, and that is specifically for Black, Indigenous youth and people of color ages 17 to 21. We have typically a 12-member cohort who come and then stay with us for up to 3 and sometimes 4 years. So they're welcome to kind of come and rejoin the program. And the program is really around, it's not only focused on hands-on learning in gardens, but it's also focused around workshops that center food justice and environmental justice. We also do a lot of professional skills development, learning about how to send an email in a professional context, how to create a compelling presentation, how to give a workshop. And so youth really practice those skills, and then they also teach those skills to their younger peers in the program. So they're really building skills and leadership throughout their, 1, 2, 3, or 4 years in the program. And then our summer program is really a much more condensed program for high school age folks. They join with us in July and August, and we have about 15 summer interns. Our focus there really is that community garden support, hands-on work in community gardens. And then for our Council of Gardeners program, this is really a coalition of folks from all boroughs coming together to advocate for the needs of gardeners, initiate collective actions, explore funding opportunities, and foster connections between gardens that maybe have a lot of resources and other gardens that don't have as many resources, and really also provide some mentorship opportunities and training opportunities for emerging leaders. So one of the things that we offer is advocacy trainings. We were actually supposed to hold a 2-day training this past weekend, but 3 of our team members, including Aishima, who was supposed to lead the workshop, are sick, very sick this weekend. So we had to cancel, and we'll be working on rescheduling that opportunity. But we do periodically throughout the year provide advocacy trainings around kind of getting to know your elected officials in New York City, learning how to identify who your council person is, learning how to read a piece of legislation or and then write a response or prepare a testimony for city council hearing. And then we also have been really active around Executive Order 43, which Mayor Adams issued in the summer, which basically asked all city agencies to prepare a list of their properties that could be used for affordable housing. He also, in this executive order, specifically included the Parks Department, of which community gardens, not all community gardens are owned by the Parks Department, but about 300 or so community gardens in the city are underneath Parks jurisdiction, and then others are owned by other agencies or privately owned or owned by land trusts. And so this executive order had the potential, based on especially previous mayoral encroachment on community lands, potential to threaten community gardens. So we've been organizing around that, including a rally that we held at City Hall. In October, we had over 100 community garden supporters at that rally. And we also had 3 council members join us at that rally. So that's some of the work that the Council of Gardeners does. Um, and then as we come back into our really community gardener hands-on and tangible support, the umbrella for that is our Harvest for Neighborhoods program. And through that, we hold in the spring and in the fall, we hold plant distributions and seed distributions. Sometimes we are able to distribute compost thanks to collaborators from Big Reuse or from BkRot. And we've worked in alliance with other folks around raising seedlings for us and together with us through Randall's Island and at Red Hook Community Farm and a little bit of East New York Farm. So we are working together across our network of other folks who are doing similar work to kind of plug in and help to meet the needs of community gardeners who are growing throughout the city. And then providing seeds, particularly seeds of cultural importance, is important to us. Providing hand tools whenever we're able to. And then also, engaging volunteers or engaging our youth interns around hands-on projects, providing materials for projects, for raised beds or for compost, building compost bins, for garden furniture or irrigation systems. And then also sometimes in the case where there's like a big problem that a garden is facing, sometimes we can work alongside the garden to bring about a kind of hopefully community-oriented solution and pull in different partners or electeds to kind of work alongside of us and the garden group to solve an intractable problem that the garden group is facing. And I think our seed library and our tool lending library are kind of in addition, aside from the Council of Gardeners, these programs are kind of our broadest reaching programs. So we're able to serve all community gardens in New York City through this program, through both of those programs. And, you know, for us, one of the reasons why we wanted to complement the seed library with the tool library was just really concerns that we see on a day-to-day basis in community gardens where there's so many community gardeners who are wanting to provide stewardship of the land and wanting to do the work of, growing foods and of creating, biodiverse habitats in their gardens, but they're severely limited by a lack of resources on every level. And so many community gardeners are reaching into their own pockets, paying out of their own pockets to invest in the garden spaces. And access to tools is a really big stumbling block that gardeners typically face. And maybe it's not always access to tools that's the problem. Sometimes in some gardens, security is a big problem where folks will have experienced theft of tools, or if there are any large tools that are left for any long period of time in the garden, that attracts people to come and break into the garden, stealing the tools out of the garden. Other times there are issues around, if a garden space is really small and folks just don't have the space to store a lot of tools in the garden. Um, and then there are some tools that gardens don't need to use all the time, but maybe would like to use, once a season or twice a season. Like if folks are like sanding down their garden furniture and repainting it, they may not need to have a sander in their tool, in their small shed of tools. But it would be great to borrow one a couple times a year, or a wood chipper, for example. So there's certain types of tools that you might not need to, we don't need 600 of those tools across New York City. We just need maybe 30 of those. And then if they could just be shared between people, then everybody gets to use them without having all of this excess. So we really are trying to meet that particular need and also just prevent this kind of duplication of efforts and duplication of resources. So we're really working on trying to create a system where sharing is fluid and we're meeting specific needs in the types of tools that we're selecting. And here's a view. So our tool library is closed for the season. It's going to reopen on March 17th. So it's coming up around the corner. Both our tool library and seed library will reopen on our website. So folks can go to our Green Gorillas website, and once it's right now, you'll just see, if you go there, you'll just see like a frequently asked questions about the tool library and frequently asked questions about the seed library instead of actually seeing the library itself. But on the 17th, we'll turn it back on. And this is really what the tool library looks like when you go to the website. We have these 4 different categories: garden maintenance tools, events, tree care, and general construction. And across those 4 categories, we have 55 different listings. And some of those listings are duplicates of each other. Like we have, I want to say we have 8 different like drills or impact drivers. We have those because sometimes a garden group is like at the beginning of the season, maybe they're holding a like all hands on deck, calling all volunteers, all members come into the garden, and they're gonna be repairing garden beds, or they're going to be rebuilding beds. And so they may need, 4, 5, 6, 7 drills, to help support that big volunteer effort and that one volunteer a day, so that many hands can make light work in the garden. And so the garden on a regular basis doesn't need or have 5, 6, 7, 8 drills, but they could borrow them from us for that event. And then they can engage all of the volunteers they have. And, so we've had a few of those requests. And so some of those 55 listings are for duplicate things. Or in the case of like circular saw, I think we have 2 or 3 of those because that's a popular item. A lot of people request it. So we ended up getting a few of those. Um, and this kind of gives a sense of what some of the items are. We have a jigsaw, brad nailer. We have like an oscillating multi-tool. We have chargers of different types. We have a wood chipper. We have like a garden cultivator, bolt cutters. That's surprisingly requested a fair amount. And then we have some event supplies as well, like speakers, portable tables. We have a little like a pop-up tent. So these are the kinds of things that maybe gardens, especially with some of the event supplies, like you may not have space in your garden to store, or have, 4 or 5 folding tables. But if you're having a big community event, it may be helpful to have those tables, for example. Um, so, um, like I mentioned, the library operates from mid-March, and then it runs through the end of October. And folks, when they check out, so you can add, you see the little sign here, add to cart. Once you can pick whichever items you want, add to the cart, and then you can check out. So then it goes into like a free checkout little box, and you can enter in how you would like to receive the tools. So you can either select that you can want to pick them up from our office in Crown Heights, or you can select that you would like to have the tools delivered to your community garden. So for anyone who selects that they would want to have them delivered, that's when Derek reaches out and schedules, works with you on your schedule to find a time when he can come and drop off the tools, which is also nice too, because then he's there if you have questions about how the tool operates, or you have other questions or needs in the garden, they can be surfaced and talked about at that time as well. And then we have a loan period of 14 days, with the option to renew for an additional 7 days. Although with some items, like if folks are holding one of those like big events where they're borrowing, all of our drills, we might say, hey, if we give them to you 2 days in advance, could we get them back like the next day, for example, so that we don't have this total lack of that in the library. So sometimes we can work around that. Or sometimes people need a particular set of tools for a longer period of time too. And if no one else is requesting them, that's fine by us as well. Um, so we're pretty fluid as far as that's concerned. And the website makes it just super easy for people to browse and request things. And then Derek can do the follow-up in terms of getting the tools to you or arranging a time for you to come into the office and pick them up. So for us, we really started this process with a survey of all community garden groups that we could reach. So at our different events and on our website through social media, we shared a kind of needs assessment, and we're trying to understand what tools would people want to borrow? What tools do you need in your garden? What tools do you wish you had for a particular project? So, and then also just conversations as we're out and about in the gardens talking to folks, and also just observing like what tools do we see that people have, or what are things that people kind of need a lot of, or maybe are more seasonal items. So kind of combination of those things. And then we created the shop on our website is a Squarespace website. And so they have like all these really great, easy templates for creating a shop. And that's how we do our seed library as well, is we have a little seed library shop on our site with a free checkout feature. And with the seeds, we offer folks the option of either picking them up from us, picking them up at one of our events, or we mail them. We send them in the mail to folks. So those are the options with the seeds. Our youth interns created all of the entries, like so created, and I should have taken a screenshot of this, but like if you would click into, this folding table, for example, you would pop, it would enlarge into a page of its own that then has a description of, which isn't so important for a folding table, but it is more important for some of these tools. So you learn exactly what the tool is and what chargers come with it and all of that sort of thing. So you get to see all of the details about it before you and learn about it before you put it in the cart. Um, so we had youth interns who created, each of those tool entries, each of the seed entries, and the descriptions for them. And then Derek really manages the process of you receiving those requests, the lending requests, processing them, surfacing any questions that he has, working with youth interns on making sure that the tools are clean, when they come back in, cleaning the tools, checking to make sure they're in good working order before they go back out, making sure that when someone requests something that has like a rechargeable battery, that we're charging those batteries ahead of time before we take them to the group, um, that sort of thing. And I think that's really it. I wanted to also just share a couple other photos here from different parts of the city, the team in action. Um, and I would love to just talk with you all about more about the tool library and any questions or ideas. I think we're also super open to um, other suggestions, ideas. We're really new to this, and it would be great to hear. Um, right now we limit it to just community garden groups, but maybe there are other types of groups that have like affinity with community gardeners or that we could expand into. So I would just love to hear any ideas or questions that you all may have.
Um, Thank you so much. That was so exciting. I can't believe how much you do and how much is out there. Whew, it's so hopeful. It's really nice to know that you exist in the world. Um, Let me just start with some of the questions that people have already put in the chat,
Great.
and then we can sort of intersperse with people raising hands and people in the room. First of all, Mary Ellen was like, "Wow, you have wood chippers." She was are your power tools corded, rechargeable, or a mix? Is there? You just said about battery management, but is that?
Yeah. Most are not corded. We have a couple of corded things, but most are rechargeable because most community gardens don't have a source of power, or at least a strong enough. Like some gardens are like, oh, we have solar panels. That's not gonna operate a power tool for longer than a few minutes, really, realistically. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good to know. Thank you. And what's the first day a community garden can request a tool?
I
Like what?
think March 17th we're gonna open, so that'll be the first day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Betty asks, what do you mean by registered community garden? Her garden is a nonprofit community garden, but not registered with parks.
That's no problem. That doesn't matter at all. It's really that the member, it's really about the member, that the person who's requesting it is actually a maybe registered is the wrong word, but actually belongs to the group. Because sometimes we'll have folks be like, well, I'm a community gardener. And we're like, okay, what garden are you part of? And they're like, well, I'm not really a member. And you're like, oh, well, you really have to, even if that membership, as long as there are other people in the group who would attest to your membership,
Right.
in that group, that's good enough for us. There's not like an elaborate vetting process by any means. And absolutely, we work with groups, whether they're with parks, whether they're not with parks, land trust gardens, really a wide range of community gardens.
Okay. Oh, good to know. So, but you mean that the person is a member of that garden? Not,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, we just want to make sure that it's because I think for us, since we are such a small staff and it is such a limited number of tools that we have, we don't really feel that we have the capacity to serve like home gardeners or gardeners who, which like I see what I would see the need like especially in some like on my block, for example, we do a lot of like street tree care, and there may be situations where it would be beneficial for us to like borrow something like this, but like we're not a community garden. So there are some like kind of gray areas for us where we really focus right now just on community garden groups.
Okay, that's good to know. Um, do the community gardens have to describe the project that they plan to use the tools before they're approved?
They don't.
Okay, all right.
They don't. They're just we're like, you need it, you got it.
Does, any,
Um,
does anybody in the room have any questions?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I'd be curious, I mean, you're rolling out some dangerous tools,
Yeah.
right? Like the circular saw comes to mind. And, do you do any training, for people?
we don't explicitly do training. We have a library of training, safety training videos on the site, on the website, and we suggest that people take some time to watch those if they're not familiar. We also let folks know that if they would like some tips or instruction from Derek when he's dropping off the tools, that we would be glad to do that. And sometimes that is something that he does is show people how to use the tool or talk through safety with the tool as he's doing the drop off. Um, and but otherwise we don't have like a there's not like a you have to take this safety training with us first and then you can be eligible to borrow the tool.
Hmm, that's good to know. Go ahead, Beth.
I have a question. What kind of collateral, if any, do you collect from people? Like, what
deposit?
system you have in place yet to make sure that you get everything back?
We operate on trust, really. We had no problems getting everything back last year, and we were very busy. And so I will just vouch for the fact that community gardeners are highly trustworthy individuals. So we haven't, we don't ask for people's like driver's license or a deposit of some sort. We really are, for better or worse, foolishly, naively or not, we really are just about, we're gonna trust that you are gonna return this to us, when you say, I mean, and that's also what helps when we go to the garden and we drop off, we're like, we know where you are if we need to come back.
Oh, that's great. Betty, do you want to ask your question?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
hi. Great presentation. I love it. So I'm involved with an organization, volunteer organization that supports school gardens. Now, mostly in District 15, which is a DOE district. But we also get, and we have a small tool lending library, but we get calls from other schools. Do you consider school gardens as community gardens, as they are referred to in the literature as a type of community garden?
That's a great question. We don't make a distinction at this point. I think we would be happy to serve school gardens in this way as well.
Great. They mostly want wheelbarrows. Do you have wheelbarrows or mostly just
Oh,
the power tools?
yeah, we don't. We don't have wheelbarrows. No, no. Partly because
That's what they really need.
so interesting. No, I'm sorry, we don't have that. And I think that would be really kind of difficult for us, just size wise. And like I don't think have this. I'll talk with Derek and I'll talk with Aishima. But that's interesting to know that wheelbarrow is a top request.
Yeah, let me say, like, we will ask for deliveries of mulch or soil or, substances. And if a school can get them, they're kind of dumped. I don't mean that badly, but they're
Yeah.
deposited on the sidewalk. And you need a whole team of volunteers and shovels to kind of get the material
Yeah.
into the garden. We just can't leave it on the sidewalk until, people come along and do a little shoveling.
Yeah.
So that is one of our big needs.
Mm.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing that, Betty, and thank you for that question. I'll definitely surface that with my colleagues.
Great, thank you.
That's great. So we have a congratulations from Gary asking on the launch of the tool library. And someone else asks, how many gardens now are you serving, I think? And how has that varied over time?
So last year we served 137 gardens through the tool and the seed library combined. And I want to say that of that number, there were about almost 50 of those were tool library loans and requests.
Great. Do you have a question, Michael?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. One is, how do you acquire the tools? I mean, are the tools actually donated, or is the money donated and then do you go out and buy the tools?
We would be happy to accept donations of tools, and sometimes they do come to us like that, especially like if a garden has a ton of resources and they're like, we just don't need this item, or folks have come to us with that before. But a lot of times we will actually just purchase the tool through grant funds. So one of the ways we got started with this was through a small grant from the New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets. They helped us with some of that. And then through foundation support as well. But so it's kind of a mix.
Um,
I think
Okay,
you
go ahead.
had other questions, I think? I don't want to jump in.
no,
No, go ahead.
Okay. I was going to ask about and Sarah, thank you. I was going to ask about the seed library and how you source seeds. Is that internally procured, or are you going to outside vendors? And if it is outside, what kind of testing or selection is done for biodiversity and other considerations?
That's a great question. We kind of are taking like a phased approach to the seed library. So last year we got started with seeds that we purchased through a variety of different sources. And I don't have all our full list with me. But we did like Hudson Valley seeds, we did True Love seeds. We tried to do like smaller local growers, BIPOC growers. And so we're really focusing on seeds that are, organic, contribute native seeds that contribute to biodiversity, seeds that have cultural relevance for important culturally significant foods. So we have a kind of complicated set of criteria that we're looking for in terms of what seeds we're offering. And as we are building onto this year, one of the things that we're really looking to do is and youth in the youth empowerment pipeline are going to be doing some research around like climate resilient seeds that are resistant to drought, and that sort of thing. And we're hoping to build on a kind of like climate resiliency aspect of the library. And then the other thing that we're hoping to expand into this year is seed saving, and really offering, like, in the fall we held a seed saving workshop. We want to do more of those kinds of education events and encourage gardeners to save seeds and share back seeds with us that they have saved. So we're kind of walking through this sort of one step at a time. And but I think we're also building knowledge internally in our team in terms of like what it means to be knowledgeable about seeds and what it means to be good stewards of seeds and as we're sharing them. So we're definitely in a learning phase with that. And if anyone here has specific ideas or resources around that, I would love to be aware of them and appreciate that. And thank you so much for that question. That's a really good question.
Yeah, I'll follow up. I used to work at a large vertical farm in the area that does a lot of schoolwork and has a seed library, and there could be some good connections. They're always looking to do more in the community.
Amazing.
Cool. We'll put you in touch.
That's very cool.
Also, that's what I was going to ask that question. Like, do you, when you call it a seed library, so I wondered if you were asking people to return the seeds when their produce came to fruition. So thanks for that answer. Thanks for that question. Do you want to add something, Michael? And then we'll get back to some.
Yeah, so I have a bigger question. The way I found out about the tool library was the Department of Environmental Conservation put out a list of all the tool libraries in New York State. And I was very surprised to find that there were actually 3 tool libraries in Brooklyn.
Wow.
And I was just curious, we do have Gary from the DEC on the call, and I was wondering if you would like to say something about the significance of tool libraries in the larger scope of things, Gary. Not to put you on the spot.
I saw him in the chat, but I don't see him in the attendance anymore.
Oh,
He might have slipped out.
okay.
Well, if he comes back, we'll look for him.
Anyway, I do know that there's interest from the Department of Environmental Conservation in the tool libraries and the role that they play in making resources available and sharing resources. And I just wanted to acknowledge that.
Thank you. Thanks, Michael. So someone else asks what your principal sources of funding are, if you're willing to share that.
Yeah, so I mentioned the New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets. They were very supportive through their they had a community gardens and urban growers grant. And then they also have their community growers grant. And then a number of different foundations. We use some funding from the Lily Auchincloss Foundation. We also get support from the Stephen and Alexandra Cohen Foundation that has helped with our seed and our tool library. I'm trying to think of others that we've used specifically for the seed and the tool library.
I bet Patagonia might give you some support for a seed and a tool library.
Who's that?
Patagonia.
Patagonia.
That's a good
Yeah. Yeah, we reached out to them and didn't hear anything back. So,
Do you get city council? Do you get city council funding?
we do. We have city council discretionary funds this year, this fiscal year from Deputy Speaker Ayala, and then council members Salam, Stevens, Feliz, Rivera, Osei, Nurse, and Banks, Christopher
Wow.
Banks. So kind of, several districts in the South Bronx, and then Harlem, Lower East Side, and then, sort of Bed-Stuy, Bushwick, and then East New York.
Wow, that's good. That's a big variety.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
But you're located in Brooklyn, but so you're getting support from because you serve all over the city.
Yes, yeah. Though it's interesting. So we do serve all over the city. Brooklyn has the largest number of community gardens of all the boroughs. So Brooklyn has about 278 community gardens. And then I think the next largest is the Bronx, and then Manhattan, and then Queens. Queens doesn't have very many community gardens. There's about, 45-ish community gardens in Queens, if that gives you a sense of like the spread,
Wow.
and the difference in community garden density.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I would never have guessed that. Um, okay, now we've got some suggestions for things that you could supply for community gardens from a community gardener member among us. Label maker, gas-powered generator, microphone, loppers, chainsaw, wheelchair. And I know that you have responded to that, but I just wanted to share that. Sarah,
Right.
they have loppers, but no chainsaws, no wheelchairs.
Yeah, and we've been debating about this gas-powered generator for a little while now. But we've been a little bit nervous about it because we'd have to store it in our office space, and I just don't really know enough about how to store something like that safely. I guess if it's totally empty of fuel when we're storing it, and then we just get the fuel as we're delivering it. If anybody knows about any safety, recommendations with that, that has been on our radar, but just something we've been hesitant about.
Okay, yes, go ahead.
Hi, Sarah. Robert Saffer.
Oh, hey, Robert, how are you?
Good, thanks. Couple of additional suggestions. This is really terrific. Something we need is a laminator sometimes for
Okay.
signs that we want to put out and weatherproof. And
Great.
maybe is there a way for people to get color printing? That would mean, you guys would print it at your office,
Yeah.
and we would have to pick it up or something. But of course, I know that's expensive process. But
That's interesting. That's very interesting. And it connects a lot, and this also relates um to Susan's suggestion around a microphone and label maker. Those things are laminator, color printer. Those definitely connect to like event supplies, and that's an area that we're looking to continue to build, really helping gardens support community events, especially because those are areas that like Green Thumb just doesn't supply anything in terms of those kinds of supplies. So those are really helpful suggestions. Thank you.
also, Betty's question earlier about getting a wheelbarrow. Our community garden has typically 4 or 5, and we're really never using more than 1 or 2 at a time. I'm sure we would be glad to lend them to any school in our immediate area. So I'm thinking maybe if the schools check with community gardens nearby and see if they can just borrow them for a short period, they would probably be more than willing.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I'm writing that down too. Robert Kinona says Field Meridians in Brooklyn has started a seed library as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And do you ever schedule wood chipper visits to community gardens? Mary Ellen's on the wood chipper trail tonight.
So obsessed. So obsessed.
Yeah.
Mary Ellen, do you mean like would we come with like some, volunteers or like youth interns and the wood chipper and like just do the wood chipping?
Yeah, or even one person who could come and kind of do the wood chipping. Because I remember as part of Save Our Compost, there was a group of people that went and visited various composting sites across New York City. And I heard various people running composting sites talk about, gosh, I really wish I had a wood chipper. And I don't think any of us at the time knew about your wonderful services. And I would imagine that once the word gets out more broadly, people really, you have a wood chipper? Or maybe I'm just the weird one. So that's a possibility too.
No, we actually have 2 wood chippers because it is a popular item. So, but I will talk to, I know that we've done wood chipping on site when we're like in a garden, but usually it's when there's like something else that's going on and we're kind of like, because it's not usually a big group activity. So usually we like to be, maybe there's a team helping out with, something else on site, and then a couple of people are running the wood chipper. So, but that's definitely something we would consider. And I'll talk with Derek and Aishima about, kind of like a one-off, like scheduling wood chipping, just going with the wood chipper and just doing that. That's an interesting idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then I'm gonna not make the Fargo joke.
Oh,
But another suggestion is a hand truck.
Hand
Susan was suggesting.
I'm taking these all down in notes, by the way.
Good.
This is great. This is great.
Anybody else have anything? These have been great questions.
This might be beyond the purview of just like the tool library, but and Green Gorillas, but do you know of any efforts to like track outcomes from community gardens in terms of like pounds produced per season? Does anything like that exist?
That's a really interesting question, and there have been different efforts around. There's a really interesting organization called Earth Economics, and they're in the midst of building a dashboard right now to try to quantify different economic outputs from not just community gardens, but green spaces in New York City. But they don't have anything specifically around quantifying like harvests. Um, I know some gardens do keep track or roughly keep track of what they're harvesting, especially gardens that may have like a small farmers market or contribute to a small community farmers market. But then there are other gardens that really don't track that. And I think one of the things that complicates it is that folks are using community gardens for so many different purposes. Some people are using it to grow, for like environmental stewardship and fostering biodiverse pollinator habitat. And some folks are using it a lot more for like community events and have like a small stage and have furniture for community to gather and maybe like some tall trees that sort of shade the space so it's much more gathering and shade and rest and reflection. And then other folks who are really growing for individual use, family use, and then other folks growing for more broader community use. And all throughout this, everybody who's working in the garden is a volunteer. And so there's really, I think it's very challenging when like, for example, one of the things like when we apply for like grant funding or where we're partnered with gardens around food growing, I always shy away from quantifying harvest because to me it's just such a big burden and a big additional burden on community gardeners who are already taking on so much responsibility. It would be very interesting to know and very helpful to know, but I worry that the logistics around making it happen would just be like a burden on gardeners in too cumbersome of a way for it to actually be productive. Those are my insights and I guess kind of the things that I would see as kind of roadblocks to kind of sussing that out.
The only thing that comes to mind is if you had some kind of award thing like most eggplants grown or something like that, it might help them want to have that sort of like honor or award on their community garden fence to be incentivized to to fill out that kind of quantifying information, but still it's still a lot.
Yeah, and then also like what are the practices, like what are the best practices for counting crops or weighing them, or how is it like when we're getting the data from community gardeners, have they been trained in how to capture that data? So I think, and do they have the tools? Do they have a small scale that they can use? So that's another element in that picture as well.
Exactly. And Mary Ellen suggested something like a 4-H festival or fair for community gardeners. That's cute. Only if there's cotton candy, that's all I say. And Jeff, Beth has another
Yeah, I
question.
have a question. You kind of answered this for me, I think, in the beginning of your presentation, but I'm curious to hear how your work intersects with Green Thumb and what's the Venn diagram of the two entities, and how does your work overlap and support similarly versus totally different stuff that you do, which clearly, a lot of what you talked about today is totally different stuff that you do. But I'm just curious about that in terms of supporting gardens.
That's a great question. So some of the things that we do that are really unique that Green Thumb either doesn't do or really can't do. So some of the advocacy work, the advocacy trainings, the rally at City Hall, they as a department within a city agency, they really can't do those sorts of things. Their individual staff may want to do those things, but they can't actually speak out and act in that sort of way. They can't do any community organizing in that way. So that's definitely something that we do that they are just not able to do, positionally, structurally. And then we also place a heavy emphasis on youth development, youth empowerment, and building intergenerational relationships. And Green Thumb has in the past had some youth programming, but one of the issues that at least that we've had with that is that they were always unpaid youth. And so for us, it's a very high priority for us to offer hourly compensation for our youth, even though it really is a working learning, there's a lot of learning that's happening, and it's not just a kind of all work sort of experience. But a lot of young folks for us, if they would not be able to participate in a program like ours unless they were paid, because they're facing a lot of financial struggles, and need to have the income from a part-time job coming in. So those are two areas that Green Thumb really doesn't either can't engage in or really doesn't engage in. And then in terms of the physical support, for community gardens, Green Thumb, of course, does a lot of that, and they are, really deeply, engaged in providing tangible support for gardens. So that's something that we're actually not as good at. We just don't have as big of a team with as many skills. So we're a lot better if there needs to be a couple of hands-on garden maintenance or garden cleanup, or get in there and build a few garden beds, or we're good with if you need a group to come in and kind of give a boost, or assist with an event. We also really love to assist with community events. And that's something that Green Thumb really doesn't do on a garden by garden basis. So we try to leave the bigger infrastructure and technical work to them, and we focus a lot more around the community building and bringing community energy into the garden. I hope that kind of responded to that.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, cool.
I anticipated a lot of it, so it's really helpful to hear the from you. And thank you for doing the work that you do.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I guess that's everything. It looks like. So Liz announced Making Brooklyn Bloom next Sunday at Brooklyn Botanical Gardens.
Saturday.
Oh. Do what, Betty?
Saturday, not Sunday.
Oh, Saturday? Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's Saturday. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, everybody's in the know about it. Thanks.
And we'll have folks who are tabling at Making Brooklyn Bloom. So if you are going, look out for folks from Green Gorillas and say hello. Share other suggestions as well. And then please, I'm gonna put my email in the chat. If you think of something later on that you're like, oh, I should have asked this or I should have suggested that, please reach out to me. And definitely really interested in other suggestions or possible collaborations. And I just so appreciate all of you. It's been a pleasure to share this space with you and appreciate the suggestions, the input, the questions. And thank you for all the work that you're doing. It's incredibly important work in Brooklyn. So really appreciate everything that you're doing for the community as well.
Well, thank you so much. We are so happy to know about the work you're doing. And you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, or we're not offended if you need to go.
I will happily stay and listen in. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks a lot. That's very kind. Okay. Well, thanks so much. Yes, what? Oh, okay, sorry. There's one more question.
He didn't say that he wanted to do a presentation, but hi, Q, the meeting's not adjourning. Please, you're welcome to stay.
Oh yeah, please do stay. The meeting's not adjourning at all. So thanks for coming.
Hey, hi, good evening. I'm just arriving home myself. I've been listening for a while. I mentioned not having a presentation, but I did have some links to share and some things. I am Q. I am from the Flatbush Tool Library here in Flatbush, Brooklyn.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for the invite from Michael. I am also an community organizer for a group called Mutual Aid Group called Flatbush Mixtape. I did put our inventory page. I was curious about what the inventory checkout system was that you all used at Green Gorillas. I used My Turn. I'm not sure if that's similar or you use a different checkout system. So that's just one thing I was curious about to jump in here with. You can check out what our system is as far as getting in with the community and such. We have a main partnership here in Flatbush with Kew Gardens. We work out of their space as well as our main space, which is actually just a storage unit here in Flatbush on it's in Erasmus by Erasmus High School, the Stop and Store. We have set times that we are open. We are kind of trying to rework that because that was based off of my availability, but we're going to switch to volunteer schedule, which would also be twice a week. Currently, we are not open 5 days a week. So you would basically to work with us and get a tool, you would go onto our library page, the My Turns inventory page, reserve a time, and then work with us to come pick up. And that's kind of how we do it. A lot of what I would get into right now would just be repetitive from the presentation you just heard. So I'll just put us out there, check out the Flatbush Tool Library. We do have a current ongoing project with an architecture group called Architecture and Advocacy. Would love to share more about that. If anybody would love to hear anything, keep in touch. But I will just jump for now and listen to see what y'all are up to yourselves. Thanks.
Thanks so much for sharing all of that. Maybe we can have you come back for another meeting and do your own presentation and share more. We'd love to have that.
I will also invite anyone here if y'all want to come jump in on a Zoom for our Flatbush meeting. You can also hear about some of the stuff we get up to that way, and if you want to like tap in any way.
Okay. Do you have a how can we find your Zoom link for your regular meetings? Is it on your website?
Yeah, it'll be on our website and our Instagram page, which is Flatbush Mixtape. Which is you can find it there. We are going to be in-person meeting at Kew Gardens this weekend. Flatbush Tool Library folks. We're going to be doing a bit of an inventory day with the community garden over there. So that's would be another great way to tap in. We're going to be there sort of planning our little workshop space that the garden is sharing with us. So we'd be open to questions if people wanted to pop in as well.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot. That was great.
Yeah, sure.
What a nice surprise to have you pop in like that. Thank you.
Yeah, I was listening on. I commented a few times.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't realize. I know Michael's been dealing with you, but I didn't realize who you were. So here you are. Thank you.
Cheers.
Yeah, and Susan just added something. The snowdrops that were among the bulbs donated and planted by Green Gorillas at Green Acres Garden are blooming right now and lifting spirits on Franklin Avenue. So thank you. And thank you to both of you for what you do. And again, Hugh, you're welcome to come back and do your own presentation. We would love to have, hear more if you'd like to share.
Thanks.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, so thank you for everybody for your great questions. And Sarah, thank you so much for spending time with us and sharing everything that you do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So let's move to our next item of business is an update from Lacey, the Borough President Reynoso's office.
Hey everyone, I'll be really quick. I just wanted to give you a few save the dates, I guess. I had emailed everybody about this, but April 10th is going to be our next State of the Borough. It is already that time again. So Thursday, April 10th at Boys and Girls High School. Doors are at 6, program is at 7. It's at 1700 Fulton Street in Bed-Stuy. It's on our website if you want to RSVP. Just kind of come out and hear what we've been up to in our office over the last year and what we've got going for 2025. And then the next thing is this is not out in the public yet, so you're hearing it here first. We are planning a couple of Earth Month events for April. One is going to be like a day-long conference style event here at Borough Hall on April 28th called Planning for Brooklyn's Climate Future. It's going to be from like 9:15 to 5:15. We're going to have panels and fun presentations, hear from like organizers and activists and city people and about all these different climate initiatives that are going on in Brooklyn. And hopefully we're going to hear from some SWAB people about the updated organics report, fingers crossed,
Yes.
at that event, among some other great things. So that should be out in the world in the next week-ish. So I'll send that around for people to RSVP as well. And then the next day, the 29th of April, we are hosting something we've done before. I think we did in 2023. We're doing again with Councilmember Lincoln Ressler's office. We are doing a Sustainable Building Resource Fair here at Borough Hall from 4 to 8 p.m. on April 29th. It's a Tuesday. And basically what that event is it's targeted at property owners, building managers, folks who are interested in greening their buildings. There'll be kind of 3 different components. One is organizations that do technical assistance, will come and do tabling. Sanitation will be there to talk about how to do composting in your building, among lots of other things. There will be some contractors on hand who do this kind of work, like everything from like heat pump installation, weatherization, green landscaping, all different kinds of stuff. And then we'll have some workshops as well. So save those dates, April 28th and 29th. Both of those events are here at Borough Hall. And then I'll just say again that I'm about to start working on testimony for the sanitation budget hearing on March 18th. So anything you want to share with me that we should be thinking about, please do.
Thank you. That was great. And also the membership.
Oh, and membership,
Reunifications.
yes. If your membership expires in April or in May, you should have gotten an email today from my intern, Jen Hung. You can look for an email from her. Basically, you just need to refill out the form before your term expires. Yeah, if you want to keep being a member. And we're going to stay on top of that list. I know everybody's got different term expiration dates, so try to get that out to you at least a month in advance when it's your time.
Do you still have a talent section? Because I'm working on my twirl. Thank you. Well, I will be reapplying. I'm very excited about that. Okay, great. So coalition updates. Thank you very much for that, Lacey. Save Our Compost.
Hi, it's Sherry. I'm here. Yeah, just a quick update because there was a lot of discussion about requesting funding. That's the focus right now because there was a deadline. I want to say the deadline was last week to put in the city council funding request. So there was discussion around that and how that works and some of the details around that. And then looking forward to the advocacy that will be happening and support around the hearing that Lacey mentioned on the 18th, the DSNY hearing. So I think there might be a rally. We have another meeting this week, so I'll share it when something's set up. So yeah, lots of budget stuff as to be expected at this time.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Yep.
And how about the reusable NYC? I know Uli couldn't come tonight, so somebody else updating about that? No. All right, well, we'll get that another time. And executive committee, thank you very much, Mary Ellen, for excellent notes from the February meeting. Does anyone who read the meeting minutes would like to move that we approve them? Michael moves that we approve them. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, seconding. And all those who approve, raise your hand. Our previous secretary is applauding the minutes. Thank you, Mark. Okay, anyone vote no? And any abstentions? Okay, approved. Excellent. We're adding a nominating committee because elections are coming up in June. Michael, do you want to say anything? Do you want me to share?
Yeah, could you just pull up that?
Yeah, let me, hold on one second. So Michael is heading up the nominating committee, and he is, let's see, okay. Sorry, I'm having trouble sharing. And would like to just speak a little bit about that.
So yeah, I just wanted to share this that slide.
Here it comes. Very exciting.
So I just wanted to say that serving on the executive committee of the SWAB is a great opportunity to guide the direction of the SWAB, and I'm announcing the formation of the nominating committee at this meeting. So it's time to start conversations with potential candidates. Nominations will be requested officially at the April meeting, and elections will be at the May meeting. There's a term of 2 years in a given position on the executive committee. So I encourage you to consider applying and, to throwing your hat into the ring to vote, to be on the executive committee, and self-nominations are welcome.
Excellent.
That's it.
Thank you. So it's a 2-year, but people run for re-election during that 2-year limit.
Yeah, and feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or if you would like to talk.
How much does it pay, Michael?
Oh, pay is excellent, but we cannot reveal that in a public meeting. That salary is so high that it would be embarrassing.
Yeah. It pays in wood chips.
Many wood chips.
Yeah.
As many wood chips as you can carry.
Yeah.
To your community garden.
Yeah, you have to carry them though.
Because they're the wheelbarrow.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Michael, and thanks for heading up the committee. Okay, legislative committee. So Uli's not here, and she asked me to give the update. There's going to be a preliminary budget hearing. The committee discussed the preliminary budget hearing, gathered talking points, and assigned testimony to participants to draft. The committee is going to meet again on Wednesday, March 5th at 6 to review draft testimony and vote to send it to all SWABs for a vote. Again, it is an all SWAB legislative committee, so people are all joining in to help shape the meetings as they go. Community composting. The committee unanimously approved sending a letter of support for refunding and increased funding to all New York City Council members based on preliminary budget testimony from last year and this year. This is going to be sent to the SWABs for a vote after the March 5th meeting. And then the bottle bill, the group unanimously approved sending a letter of support for the bottle bill to the governor based on this prior SWAB testimony. So we'll probably be sending out, the testimony for approval as well, but just to keep that moving forward. And then, she did give a reusable NYC update. She wasn't able to attend the meeting, but here are 2 updates. Choose to reuse. The group sign-on letter is finalized, 15 groups, and they're going to send it today. Hydration for All Act, CM Powers bill, intros 900. Folks can continue to work the action alert, and it's up to 19 co-sponsors. They need 26. St. Pat's for All in Queens, lots of SMs there. I don't know what that is, SMs.
Social media?
Do what?
Social media?
Maybe it is, yeah. Op-eds and letters to the editor, get ready for the summer vibe. So that, for the Hydration for All Act. I guess lots of activity. So thank you, Uli, in absentia for that update. And again, if anybody wants to join in to the meeting on Wednesday, I guess you can let Uli know. And if you need Uli's email address, you can put it in the chat in just a minute. Should we go to Outreach Committee?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm happy to report that the Outreach Committee finally finished our letter to the City Council members of Brooklyn, along with a survey and a beautiful flyer that Lee put together for us with all kinds of resources. And it is now in the hands of the Executive Committee. We are dying to get it back from them so that we can send it out to City Council members. That's very happy to report that a lot of hard work was put in on this by numerous members in the committee and some people even from outside the committee.
Oh,
so,
thank you so
that's most of it. And, yeah, one other thing, I know that Lee wants a little bit of help with what she's been doing in terms of social media, or she'd like to bow out of it a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to address that, Lee? Would you like to put in a plug for that?
Yeah, of course. So a few weeks ago, I had a shift in my work situation, and just things have gotten a little bit wild in my personal life. So I opened up the opportunity for anyone who wanted to support on the BkSWAB social. And we got a few people that were interested, but just spreading the news that yeah, the social could definitely use some love. I know, Mary Ellen, that you had been interested. I think you may be the only one on the call that was, but if you wanted to say a little bit about any plans.
Sure. I really have just been keeping my head above water in terms of really just putting out notifications about the meetings. Unfortunately, I had a spelling error with the latest one for today, but I'll repost that with the corrected information. And I've been liking posts and adding things to our story regarding upcoming events that I think are in alignment with what the SWAB supports and Brooklyn. So really that's what I've been doing so far. But again, anyone else that wants to join in, collaborate, and even maybe have a more detailed session with Lee for more pointers and ideas, that would be great too.
Great. What a great opportunity to learn. Thank you.
Lee, are you still using a tracker for people to submit ideas? Is that the best way to, compile that information?
Yeah, I know that we had experimented with that. I wasn't sure that that was the best tool for us just because it didn't gain a lot of traction and maybe I didn't advertise it well enough. But yeah, I'm sure everyone's open to suggestions via email until we maybe come up with a different route.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you all in the outreach committee, and the executive committee is going to get back to you on the letter. Thank you so much for all that you're doing in general and the social media stuff. Lee, thanks so much. Okay, organics industry. Is there anybody here who can, is Allison still here?
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, yeah, I don't have, the only updates or things I wanted to talk about is we're doing all SWAB tabling at the Trash Academy graduation this week on Thursday. And thank you, I just learned that Beth will be able to join for that. But I based on what Haley just said, I thought that it'd be a good opportunity, I don't know if someone wants to do a flyer specifically, that you guys looking for social media help, and maybe there's some volunteers there that might want to. I'm also taking the Trash Academy again, so I go through all the classes and I can post something, like in the chat if you guys would want me to. Just a thought, let me know.
That's a great idea, thank you.
Yeah, so I think we're set for Thursday. And I'll get in touch with you, Beth, just with the details. But we also have Crazy for Composting. And I don't know that I've gotten organized enough to put out an email asking if there are people that want to help out with that again. This year we had great time last year. I thought it was a successful all SWAB table. There's a sign up form to sign up to get added to our email list. I think we gained, because I think Manhattan SWAB gained a couple people from that. But so that's on the 15th, Crazy for Composting. So I would just ask if anybody, I'll send an email out, but just if anybody wants to help out at that event again, it's a Saturday again. And then I guess we have our organics committee meeting next Monday, the 10th. So everybody's welcome to join, and we'll be discussing probably, Trash Academy follow-up and planning for Crazy for Composting, which will be the following Saturday.
Okay.
Yep, that's it.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to represent the Brooklyn SWAB or organics committee at Crazy for Composting, that would be wonderful. If anybody wants to go table, I'm going to be there on a panel discussion. cafeteria culture because it's a little bit about youth this time. So, so just let us know. Allison, should they contact you?
Yeah, that would be good. I'm kind of organizing, the all swab table, which is basically just finding people to come and figuring out if we need new materials. Again, it's be a place to potentially find a social media type person to help.
Okay. So if anybody, maybe we should keep the person doing social media like in the swabs, but it is also good to recruiting new swab members. If you want to put your email in the chat, just to remind people, that would be wonderful.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. Okay, events committee. Anything going on, Liz? Hi.
How you doing? Mary Ellen and I met last month now to plan the Riverkeeper event. We did it first time last year. We cleaned up a waterfront park behind IKEA. So we're planning to sign up again this year, and we're just looking into potential waterfront areas to clean up. Riverkeeper doesn't really give you a list of sites. You kind of have to come with your own site in mind, and then work with the property owner, whether that's like, last year it was IKEA actually. But I have a call tomorrow with the Newtown Creek Alliance. They're also doing the Riverkeeper sweep, and potentially we can partner with them and clean up like an additional site, and collaborating with them could potentially like alleviate some of the administrative work of like finding a property owner and like getting all the approvals. And it's also a great opportunity to connect with a local and nonprofit doing environmental stewardship. And we have a meeting scheduled for next Thursday, the 13th. I sent out an invite during the meeting, so come and check it out if you'd like.
Okay, thanks a lot. I love connecting with other groups. That's such a great way to, have communication with all kinds of people. Thanks. Okay, so NYCHA, Susan, do you have an update for us? Thank you.
The next meeting is this Thursday at 5:30 of the NYCHA Committee of the Manhattan SWAB. And there's 2 days that they've set where we'll be working with NYCHA staff at NYCHA campuses. One is at Wagner Houses on April 7th from 2 to 5, and one is at Grant Houses on April 22nd from 2 to 5. So it's a good opportunity if you want to just become a little more familiar with NYCHA, and also they're basically educating NYCHA residents about recycling and promoting recycling. So I plan to attend. So
thanks, and thanks for representing. Thanks for going to these meetings. And also, I just want to say Lee is suggesting in the chat that if anyone wants to capture any Crazy for Composting event with anything with video, that would be great for social media. And I guess that, I don't know, maybe not so much the Trash Academy, but it could be fun to get the Crazy for Composting event. That's a great idea. Okay, so thanks. Now we've kind of already covered all of the announcements and open floor. New York Lawyers for the Public Interest is having a climate justice mayoral forum on March 31st at 6:30. I don't know what that means, starting location TBA. Is it like a progressive dinner? But you can sign up. There's a link in the agenda. And I mean, that's it. Does anybody else have anything that they want to bring up, talk about, share, comment on? We're starting to have these early meetings. We're going to get too used to this.
That's okay.
We've got some great guests coming up to the SWAB, I think. Maybe. I guess I won't say anything until it's confirmed. Anything else? Anybody?
Has there been a meeting with the new DSNY commissioner?
No, because I mean, is there?
There isn't a new DSM.
Yeah, it's still sort of interim.
Yeah.
Mr. Javier, Mr. Lohan is still, the interim acting. So nothing yet. The SWAB chairs have a meeting with Abreu coming up just to get a little catch up. I guess in the absence of meeting with the DSNY commissioner, just to kind of keep abreast of what's going on.
What are people hearing about containerization and warnings and fines starting in April?
Yeah, anybody?
I've already received a fine. Hooray. Just to give you an indication, we put it out in our own bin. We haven't gotten a city bin yet. The service that takes out our trash did not put a tightly fitting lid on the trash bin that they put out. We have a tight fitting lid, they didn't put it out. So we got a fine for $50 for not having a tight fitting lid. And we also got 3 or maybe 4 letters. They were all duplicates, or they were all referencing the same day and the same issue. So it was just duplicates. So I know that they talked about sending out many letters, but I think that might be the fact that they're sending out the same letter multiple times. So that is that. And so we've been working with the service that takes out our trash. They continue to be slow with it. I think last night they didn't put out the bins at all. They just put out the trash bags. So it's been rough just as a residential person trying to get this going. I did break down and order a bin because I'm like, if it's this hard for them to put the right fitting top on it, we'll just buy a bin. And hopefully they'll use that and not take the trash bags out of the bin and put them onto the sidewalk. So that's just, a lot of personal information that you probably don't need, but there you go.
Do you live in a multi-fam, like, is it more than one?
Yeah, it's five units.
Okay. Wow.
So it's a 1 to 9. So
Yes.
I still hear from neighbors that, have ordered containers and haven't received them yet after a couple of months. So there's still a backlog of that, although that's sort of hard to track, right? All this is sort of anecdotal. I have not yet heard from anybody in our neighborhood getting either warnings and or fines. I guess organics fines can be issued as of April 1, I think.
In Brooklyn?
An auspicious day.
Oh, yeah, right. Okay.
I mean, Mary Ellen, your comments really are, I think, insightful in reviewing the education gaps and communication gaps because.
Sorry, can't hear what's being said.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now? I'll talk louder. The mic is far from me. I was just saying that I think Mary Ellen's comments were really useful in highlighting the education gaps and communication gaps and who's not getting the information about containerization. And it's one thing to inform building residents, owners, tenants, but if we aren't able to properly communicate with the staff that serves them about what's needed, then that's useful. That's useful to know.
When is your meeting with Abreu?
This week.
I would suggest that perhaps this body come up with some questions that you would suggest for him to ask at the budget hearing.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure he's already thinking about all of this, but it couldn't hurt.
Okay.
I think Beth is very on point that we need to dig in to the budget allocations for outreach and education.
Okay.
I spoke to sanitation, some folks from sanitation on Friday. It was specifically about commercial waste zones. But I think one of the things that they brought up was that they are having trouble getting positions approved by OMB. I don't know how much it's affecting the other programs, but that's something to try to get more information about at the hearing, I think.
Okay, thank you. Good idea, Lacey. Thank you. Anybody else? Anything? Thanks for everybody's comments on that. That's good to know.
Public comments that were submitted in connection with the rule and the comment period. I know there were a lot of comments that were posted and a lot from bids.
Bids and neighborhood groups.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anything else? This is rousing. Rousing, exciting part of this meeting. It's nice to have this time where people can bring stuff up. Anything else?
Did try and bring this up at my own community board 2, and Betty, you will not be surprised, but I talked about the rule with containerization and if they were planning on holding a hearing and getting any feedback. And our Health, Environment, and Social Service committee had no interest and talked to me about the numerous other things that were more important than bringing in someone from sanitation to talk about containerization. I do think that committee within Community Board 2 is overburdened, and perhaps they need to split out some of their responsibilities to other subcommittees, but that's just because, you know, I believe that waste should be more adequately addressed, but yeah, it could be.
I agree. Thank you for sharing that. I think somebody on SWAB, I forget who, suggested that all the community boards have a speaker present about the fines and the accountability and some of the issues now from DSNY. So I thought, oh, that's a good idea. I suggested to district manager, who said that in our communities, there's really no questions and no concerns about these issues. And I said, well, there are questions and concerns. Maybe they haven't been coming to the board, but I'm grateful for Mary Ellen for keeping it up. I mean, I speak to the chair of that committee all the time. So I think we just have to keep pushing. And I might actually change my committee at some point. So there.
Yes.
Since Betty's still on the call, not to put you on the spot, but do you want to comment about the tour of the MRF a couple weeks ago?
Sure, I'll put my picture on so you'll know I'm really here. I'm really here. I just, have a bad hair day or something. It was a great tour. I mean, I had seen it on video. I had never been there. I think just being there and seeing the scope of all the stuff that comes through. And then, of course, what's her name? Cara Napolitano. She gives a very good talk, answers questions. It's very, it's a very positive presentation. There were children there. There were adults who were studying at Pratt. There were other adults who were interested, and they do school groups. I mean, of course, there are a lot of issues that they don't talk about. Their goal is just to get more stuff and try to, sell it so it can be recycled into other materials, that industry can use. And so they need more stuff. I mean, it was the first time I've heard, just if you're not sure about what plastic to put it in, because they can take it out. But if it's good, then, it can be used. So, yeah. So I mean, I'm just speaking about it very, just as a consumer, as someone who was interested in the presentation. Elizabeth is asking, what company is this? This used to be called Sims. Now it's called something else because a different company bought it. But it's the municipal recycling facility.
Oh, I'm asking about balcones.
Yeah.
Oh, that's who owns it? Oh, I mean, that operates the MRF now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Right. I'm thinking Sims from a while back and right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Balcones was originally an Austin-based company that, long story short, now is a sort of nationalized and operates MRFs in, I think, 21 or more cities, including the one in Sunset Park.
Yeah, and it was impressive that it looked, I mean, they weren't working that day. They had a holiday. It was the President's Day. But I thought it would just be super smelly. I mean, I'm sure it is when it's very hot. Or just like trash all over. But it seemed to be very well, it was clean. It was well taken care of. And she described different shifts where they don't do the sorting and all, where they just do the cleaning of the facility to keep it, in good shape. So, yeah. Thanks for bringing it up, Kendall.
When they're sorting, it is a little smelly. I have to say, I've been there on a couple tours.
This was an amazingly windy day. Like we thought the wind would. So the wind went through it all. It really wasn't smelly.
and cold too.
Yeah. Okay.
Right on the water. Also, just to say that Community Board 2, your community board actually reached out to the Brooklyn SWAB to ask me specifically to speak about microplastics. They're going to have the new Brooklyn Borough Commissioner speak of New York City DEP. And
I didn't know that person got appointed.
How?
No, the DEP. That's a that's a very new person. I didn't know they were on the job yet.
Yeah, about a month ago.
Drisana Hughes
exciting.
is her name.
Cool.
And she comes from an EJ background. She was working in the White House. And I'm excited to go just to hear her talk.
So let us know when you're speaking about microplastics. We'll try to be there to cheer you on.
I know. Thank
hard
you.
questions.
I know. Seriously, I'm not an expert on microplastics. We just work to get rid of them. We just made a movie about it. But I mean, probably when we made the movie, Cafeteria Culture, that I work for other people who don't know, we made the movie. You could type in micro and you had to type out the whole word plastics. It didn't populate it for you because it wasn't such a known subject. But hopefully, it hasn't. It's not outmoded our movie yet because it still tells information in certain ways to contextualize it. So I don't know really. It's going to be very basic. Anything I can say. Thanks about that. We will definitely gather questions. If anybody wants to add any questions that we should ask about with Abreu about to offer for him to ask at the budget hearing, email and let us know at the Brooklyn SWAB email. Anything else? Anybody? Getting close.
No.
Well, I think we could adjourn the meeting then. We've done a great job. Great questions.
Good night, everyone.
I know. Thanks so much for all your questions and participation, everybody. And we'll see you in April. April. April 7th.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Great.